The night LeBron left and Bronny became the story, the moment LeBron James walked away from the Lakers, the entire spotlight turned toward one name nobody could ignore: Bronny James. Not Luka, not Pelinka, not even the next superstar target, Bronny. Because for 2 years, the Lakers had sold the basketball world a story that felt bigger than wins and losses. A father and son wearing the same purple and gold. The greatest scorer in NBA history sharing a locker room with his own kid. A dream LeBron had spoken into existence long before Bronny ever heard his name called on draft night. But now that dream was over. LeBron was leaving Los Angeles. The king had made his decision. And suddenly, the young guard left behind had to answer the most uncomfortable question in the entire NBA. Who is Bronny James without LeBron standing beside him? That is what made this situation explode so fast. The Lakers had already allowed Bronny's salary to become fully guaranteed. They had let the deadline pass. They had chosen not to cut him when they still had the chance to save money. On paper, that looked like a clear sign of commitment. But then, less than a day later, LeBron's camp delivered the message. He was out, and just like that, what looked like security started feeling like pressure. Because keeping Bronny was no longer a feel-good family story. It was now a basketball decision the entire league was going to judge. Fans immediately started asking if the Lakers truly believed in Bronny, or if they had only kept him because cutting LeBron's son while LeBron was still in the building would have been impossible. That question is brutal. But in Los Angeles, brutal questions are part of the business. The Lakers are no longer building around LeBron. That era is finished. The organization has turned toward Luka Doncic, toward a younger timeline, toward a new identity with different priorities, and no room for sentiment. And somewhere inside that transition stands Bronny James, only 21 years old, carrying a last name that opens doors, but also brings a storm of criticism with it. This is no longer about history. This is about survival. Because if Bronny stays, he has to prove he belongs. If he gets moved, the NBA will say the Lakers only kept him as long as LeBron mattered. And if he follows his father to another contender, the debate will only get louder. So now the Lakers face a dangerous choice, and Bronny faces the biggest test of his young career. Was he really part of the Lakers' future? Or was he just the final shadow of the LeBron era? Before this story gets even deeper, comment where you are watching from right now. If you think Bronny deserves a real chance with the Lakers, press 1 inch the comments. If you think he should leave and follow LeBron to a new team, press 2. And if you want more NBA drama, trade rumors, and behind-the-scenes stories like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel right now. LeBron's exit changed the entire building. When LeBron James decided he was done with Los Angeles, it did not feel like one player leaving a team. It felt like the lights inside the Lakers building changed color overnight. For 8 seasons, every major decision in Los Angeles had been connected to LeBron. The trades, the signings, the coaching changes, the pressure, the championship chase, the constant media storm, all of it revolved around one man. Even when Anthony Davis was there, even when Luka Doncic arrived, even when Austin Reeves became part of the future, the Lakers still lived under LeBron's gravity. Then the gravity disappeared. And when that happens to a franchise, everybody starts floating in different directions. That is why this story is bigger than a farewell. LeBron was not just leaving behind a jersey. He was leaving behind an entire structure that had been built around his power, his timeline, his voice, and his legacy. The Lakers could say all the right things publicly. They could thank him for the 2020 championship. They could honor the records. They could call him family forever. But behind closed doors, the franchise had already started asking a colder question. What comes after LeBron? The answer was Luka Doncic. That is the part that made the breakup feel less like a shock and more like something that had been quietly building for months. The Lakers were no longer trying to squeeze one more chapter out of the LeBron era. They were preparing for a different kind of team, a different kind of offense, a different kind of future. Luka did not need to inherit LeBron's Lakers. He needed the Lakers to become his. That means roster spots become more valuable, contracts become more strategic. Every young player has to fit the new plan. Every veteran has to make sense next to Luka's style. Every move has to be judged by whether it helps the Lakers win during Luka's prime, not whether it protects the emotions of the past. And that is where Bronny James became such a complicated figure. Because Bronny was drafted into one story, but now he has to survive in another. He entered the NBA as part of a once-in-history father-son moment. He was never just a second-round pick. He was the son of LeBron James, wearing the same uniform as LeBron James, standing inside one of the most famous locker rooms in sports history, while the world watched every second. But now, the Lakers were not selling history anymore. They were selling a future, and in that future, Bronny could no longer be protected by the emotional power of playing next to his father. He had to become useful to Luka's Lakers. He had to become valuable in a rotation that needed defense, shooting, discipline, and low maintenance production. He had to make people forget the reason they first noticed him. That is a brutal assignment for any young player. For Bronny, it is even heavier because every conversation about him comes with a hidden comparison. Nobody talks about him like a normal 55th pick. Nobody gives him the quiet development timeline most second-round guards receive. Every missed shot becomes proof to critics. Every G League assignment becomes a punchline. Every minute on the floor becomes a public trial. And LeBron leaving only made that trial louder. Because now fans could finally ask the question they had been holding back. If LeBron is not there, do the Lakers still want Bronny? The answer might be yes. But yes is not enough anymore. Now he has to prove why. Bronny alone in the spotlight. The hardest part of Bronny James' story is not the contract. It is the spotlight. From the moment the Lakers drafted him, people stopped judging him like a normal second-round pick. They judged him like LeBron's son. Every miss became evidence. Every minute became a debate. Every G League assignment became a punchline. But now LeBron is gone, and that changes everything. Before, critics could say Bronny was protected by his father's presence. They could say the Lakers kept him because cutting LeBron's son would have created a storm. But without LeBron in the locker room, those excuses disappear. If Bronny plays now, it has to be because the Lakers believe he can help. That is why this season becomes the first real test of his NBA identity. He does not need to become LeBron. That would be impossible. What he needs is simpler and harder at the same time. Defend, hit open shots, make smart passes, avoid mistakes. Bring energy in limited minute. Become the kind of role player coaches can trust. The pressure will not go away. The name on his jersey makes sure of that. But for the first time, Bronny has a chance to answer the league on his own terms. Not as LeBron's son, Bronny James. The contract twist, nobody could ignore. The biggest twist in this story is that the Lakers did not cut Bronny. They actually let his contract become fully guaranteed. That detail changes everything. Before LeBron's exit became public, the Lakers had a chance to move on from Bronny and save money. They did not do it. They let the deadline pass. They kept him on the roster. Then, less than a day later, LeBron told the franchise he was leaving. That timing made the entire NBA suspicious. Was Bronny being kept because the Lakers believed in his development? Was it a final sign of respect to LeBron? Or was it simply easier to guarantee a small contract than create another dramatic headline? The money is not huge by NBA standards, but the meaning is huge because now Bronny is secure, but not safe. His deal is guaranteed, but his role is not. The Lakers can keep him, develop him, trade him, or use his contract in a bigger roster move if the right opportunity appears. That is why the guarantee does not end the debate. It starts a new one. If the Lakers truly believe in Bronny, they need to give him a real development path. Not just kind words, not just public support, real minutes, real coaching, real standards, and real chances to prove he belongs. But if they only kept him because the contract was cheap, then Bronny is not part of the future. He is just waiting for the next decision. And in the NBA, waiting can be dangerous. The contract bought Bronny time. Now he has to earn trust. The secret Luka plan. LeBron's exit may have shocked fans. But inside the Lakers organization, the future may have already been decided. The Lakers were moving toward Luka Doncic. That is the real story underneath everything. For years, LeBron was the center of gravity in Los Angeles. Every move connected back to him. Every season was judged by whether the Lakers could help him chase one more ring. But once Luka became the future, the franchise had to choose a direction. And they chose Luka. That choice makes sense. Luka is younger, he is in his prime, he gives the Lakers a new championship timeline. But choosing Luka also means the team can no longer build around LeBron's needs first. The offense changes, the roster changes, the priorities change. The Lakers now need players who fit Luka. Shooters, defenders, rim protectors, screeners, and low-maintenance role players who can survive playoff basketball. That is where Bronny becomes complicated. Bronny was drafted into the LeBron story. His early NBA identity was connected to the father-son dream. But now that dream is over, and the Luka era does not run on nostalgia. Bronny has to fit the new system. Can he defend next to Luka? Can he hit open threes? Can he make quick decisions? Can he become useful without needing the ball? If yes, the Lakers may keep him and develop him. If not, he could become a trade piece. That is the cold truth of this transition. The Lakers are no longer protecting the past. They are building the future. And Bronny must prove he belongs in that future, not just in the memory of what came before. The real basketball case for Bronny, the Bronny James debate is usually too emotional. Some fans say he only made the NBA because of LeBron. Others say he is unfairly criticized because of his last name. The truth is somewhere in the middle. Bronny is not a star right now. He is not a franchise player. He is not someone the Lakers are building an offense around. But that does not mean he has no NBA value. For a second-round pick, the first goal is simple: survive, learn the system, defend hard, make open shots, limit mistakes, earn trust, one possession at a time. Bronny has shown signs in those areas. His defense is the strongest part of his game. He competes, he understands angles, he can pressure the ball, he has the instincts to become a useful guard defender if the development continues. His shooting has also shown progress, especially in the G League. When he gets rhythm and real minutes, he looks more confident. That matters, because a young guard who can defend and hit open threes always has a path in the NBA. But the Lakers will not wait forever. They are trying to win with Luka. They need players who can help now or develop quickly enough to matter soon. Bronny cannot just be a story anymore. He has to become useful. That means accepting a role, playing defense, making the simple pass, hitting the corner three, staying ready, even if the minutes are small. Bronny does not need to become LeBron. He needs to become dependable. And in the NBA, dependable role players can last a long time. Warriors, Cavaliers, and the LeBron dominant. Once LeBron James became available, the entire league had to stop and look. Even at this stage of his career, LeBron is not just another veteran star. He is a moving earthquake. Wherever he goes, attention follows, expectations follow, sponsors follow, cameras follow, and most importantly, pressure follows. That is why his next destination matters so much for Bronny, because if LeBron signs somewhere new, people will immediately ask if Bronny could follow. The Warriors are the loudest possibility because the idea is almost too big for basketball fans to ignore. LeBron James and Stephen Curry on the same team, after years of finals battles, would feel like the league turning into a movie. Two defining faces of an entire era, finally sharing the same locker room, chasing one last championship while the world watches every possession. Golden State would become the biggest show in sports overnight. But the Warriors would also have to deal with the reality behind the fantasy. Salary, depth, age, role balance, defensive questions. The challenge of making a roster that looks legendary on paper actually survive the grind of a season. And that is where Bronny becomes interesting. If the Warriors were to add LeBron, a cheap young guard who can defend, hit open shots, and carry the family connection, might suddenly become more attractive. Bronny would not need to be a star there. He would not need to control the offense. He would not even need to play major minutes right away. He would just need to fit, and on a top-heavy team, cheap contracts matter. That is why the speculation makes sense. If LeBron wants to finish his career with a contender, and if that contender sees value in keeping Bronny close, the Lakers could receive a call. Maybe it would be a small trade. Maybe it would be part of a bigger structure. Maybe nothing happens at all. But the possibility is real enough to keep the conversation alive. Then there is Cleveland. Cleveland is different because Cleveland is not just basketball logic. Cleveland is emotion. It is the beginning of the LeBron story. It is the city that watched him grow from a teenage phenom into a global icon. It is the place where he delivered the championship that changed everything. If LeBron returned there to finish his career, the story would almost write itself. The king comes home one last time. And if Bronny followed him there, the emotional power would be enormous. Father and son, back near the roots of the James story, closing the circle in the place where LeBron first became a legend. But the NBA is not a storybook. Cleveland would have to make the money work. The roster would have to make sense. The front office would have to decide if adding Bronny helps the team or just completes the narrative. And the Lakers would have to decide whether sending Bronny away is worth the return. That is the delicate part, because trading Bronny after LeBron leaves could look cold. It could look like the Lakers used the father-son story, got the publicity, then moved on once the business value changed. Even if the basketball logic made sense, the optics would be difficult. But keeping Bronny just to avoid bad headlines would be its own mistake. That is the trap the Lakers are facing. Every path has a cost. If they keep Bronny, they have to develop him seriously. If they trade him, they have to accept the public reaction. If they send him to LeBron's new team, they risk making it look like Bronny was always attached to his father's movement. If they refuse to move him, they risk blocking a family reunion that could help everyone emotionally. There is no clean solution. And that is why LeBron's free agency is not just about LeBron. It is also about the people attached to his orbit. Bronny is one of them. The Lakers are one of them. The Warriors and Cavaliers may become part of it too. One decision by LeBron could rearrange multiple franchises, shift public narratives, and completely change the next chapter of Bronny's career. That is the power LeBron still has. Even when he leaves a team, he does not leave quietly. The entire league moves around the shadow he casts. The Lakers' new identity without LeBron. The Lakers are not just replacing LeBron. They are replacing an identity. For 8 seasons, everything in Los Angeles revolved around him. The spotlight, the expectations, the roster moves, the championship pressure, all of it came through LeBron. Now the team belongs to Luka Doncic. That means the Lakers have to become a different kind of team. Luka needs spacing. He needs a strong center. He needs defenders. He needs players who can move without the ball, hit open shots, and make smart decisions quickly. This new identity gives Bronny both a challenge and an opportunity. The challenge is obvious. The Lakers are trying to win now. They are not a rebuilding team with unlimited patience. If Bronny cannot help, the front office may not wait forever, but the opportunity is real too. Bronny does not need to be a star in Luka's system. He needs to be useful. A young guard who defends, shoots open threes, and plays smart basketball can fit next to Luka. That is his path. But the Lakers must be honest. If they believe in Bronny, they need to develop him seriously. If they do not, they should not keep him only because of his last name or the memory of the LeBron era. The past cannot make decisions for the future. LeBron is gone. Luka is the face. The Lakers are moving forward. Now, Bronny has to prove he is not just a leftover from the old story. He has to prove he can be part of the new one. 3 possible futures for Bronny. There are 3 ways Bronny James' story can go from here. The first path is simple. He stays with the Lakers and proves he belongs. This is the best outcome for Bronny. If he earns minutes in the Luka era, the conversation changes. People can still argue about how he got into the league, but they will have a harder time denying that he stayed because of his own work. To make that happen, Bronny has to defend, shoot, and play smart. He does not need to be great. He needs to be reliable. The second path is a trade to LeBron's next team. If LeBron signs with Golden State, Cleveland, or another contender, that team could have interest in Bronny too. A father-son reunion would create headlines, and Bronny's small contract could make him easy to move. But this path is risky. If Bronny follows LeBron, critics will say his career is still attached to his father. Even if the move helps him, the narrative may become harder to escape. The third path is the most dangerous. Limbo. Bronny stays with the Lakers, but never gets a clear role. He sits, waits, plays small minutes, goes back and forth, and spends the season surrounded by rumors. That kind of uncertainty can hurt a young player more than a trade. That is why the Lakers need clarity. If Bronny is part of the future, give him a real plan. If he is not, move him respectfully and let him grow somewhere else. What they cannot do is pretend, because pretending helps nobody. Bronny has already lived the historic father-son chapter. Now he needs a basketball chapter of his own. And this next decision will determine whether that chapter begins in Los Angeles or somewhere else. The real lesson behind the LeBron and Bronny drama, at the center of all this noise, there is a lesson the NBA world should not miss. Basketball is business, but the people inside the business are still human. That is what makes the LeBron and Bronny situation so powerful. On one side, you have the Lakers making cold franchise decisions. They are moving into the Luka Doncic era. They are chasing roster balance. They are looking for cap flexibility, a center, defensive pieces, and a cleaner identity. From a front office view, that is logical. But on the other side, you have a father, a son, and a dream that actually came true. LeBron wanted to play with Bronny. He said it for years. He carried that goal publicly, and somehow, against all the odds, it happened. They wore the same jersey, they shared the same locker room, they stepped onto an NBA floor together. That moment will never be erased, no matter what happens next. But dreams do not stop time. The league keeps moving, teams keep changing, young stars take over, older legends have to decide where they want their final chapters written. Front offices have to choose the future, even when the past still matters. That is what the Lakers did. They chose Luka, and once they made that choice, everything else had to be redefined. LeBron became a legend leaving the building. Bronny became a young player trying to survive without the emotional protection of his father's presence. The Lakers became a franchise trying to honor history while escaping it. And the NBA became the stage for one of the strangest family business crossovers the sport has ever seen. The strategic lesson for the Lakers is simple. Do not confuse sentiment with planning. If Bronny fits the Luka era, develop him seriously. Give him real standards, real coaching, and a real path. If he does not fit, be honest early. Do not let the shadow of LeBron create confusion inside a roster that needs clarity. Great franchises respect the past, but they do not let the past make decisions for the future. The lesson for Bronny is even deeper. He cannot control what people say about his last name. He cannot control whether fans think he was drafted because of LeBron. He cannot control every rumor, every headline, every debate show, segment, or every harsh comment online. But he can control the work. He can control his defense. He can control his conditioning. He can control his shot preparation. He can control his attitude when minutes are limited. He can control whether he becomes the kind of teammate coaches trust. He can control whether he keeps showing up when the world doubts him. That is where a career is built, not in the noise. In the response to the noise, and the human lesson is this: nobody should have to become their parent to prove they are worthy. Bronny does not need to be LeBron James. That is an impossible and unfair standard. He does not need to chase 4 championships, scoring records, MVPs, or an all-time legacy. He needs to become the best version of himself inside the role basketball gives him. There is dignity in that. There is strength in accepting a smaller role and mastering it. There is courage in staying steady when people laugh. There is maturity in knowing that your journey can be different from your father's and still matter. LeBron's departure from the Lakers closes one of the biggest chapters in modern NBA history. It ends the Los Angeles version of his kingdom. It ends the father-son experiment in purple and gold. It ends the illusion that the Lakers could balance the past and future forever. But for Bronny, this is not the end. This is the beginning of the real test. No more hiding behind the historic moment. No more being judged only as the kid standing next to LeBron. No more easy explanations. From here, every minute, every possession, every roster decision, and every opportunity will ask him the same question. Do you belong here? And the only person who can answer that now is Bronny James. So maybe this story was never really about whether the Lakers cut him, kept him, traded him, or protected him. Maybe the real story is about a young man finally standing alone in the brightest lights in basketball, with the whole world waiting to see if he can turn a famous name into a real career. That is pressure, but it is also opportunity. And if Bronny can survive this moment, if he can build something honest out of all this chaos, then one day people may stop asking whether he got here because of LeBron. They may start asking how far he can go because of himself. If you believe Bronny deserves time to prove himself, comment 1 below. If you think the Lakers should move him to LeBron's next team, comment 2. If you think the Luka era will completely change the Lakers, comment 3. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with another NBA fan who needs to hear the real story behind the drama.